Welcome back. Here with us on Closing Bell, and we have Hemang Jani now joining into the conversation. Hemang, thanks for being with us. Let me start by asking you about some of the financial stocks that have seen this dramatic June rally. One of them is an NBFC, and it's Bajaj Finance. Now at 3,000 plus, what's the kind of view you're taking? And I know you've done some of your own sort of research as well on this, on what has gone into this huge financials rally in June.
Hi, good afternoon, Sulbi. I think for financials, earlier when this whole COVID started, there was a feel that there is going to be, a lot of issues in terms of slippages. Supreme Court verdict was not very clear. So a lot of people were underweight on the space per se because of the lack of clarity on the impact of COVID and the slippages and the overall growth. So I think from that point, what we're seeing is that now incrementally when you speak to NBFCs and banks both, a large part of the business is getting normalized, whether it's moratorium or the slippages and overall growth. So I think from underweight to in-line kind of position is what we are seeing most of the investors getting into. And also the fact that many companies like HDFC Bank or Kotak Bank are able to raise funds very easily. Even ICICI Bank, they are looking at raising almost about $3 billion. So when large banks are able to raise money and the statements coming out from the companies are very positive and people are underweight, so we are seeing that money moving into the financial space, and we think that this may continue because we are seeing incrementally positive signs.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, the market's now down. The Nifty is down about 23 points. So obviously that 3 p.m. move is now working, on the way down. And HDFC Limited is the stock which is now down a little bit. There's a bit of a selling happening in a couple of other names as well. So just keep some of these stocks on your radar. Hemang, good afternoon. Now, what would be your view on some of these city gas plays like IGL or MGL?
See, we are extremely positive on that space because there is going to be a decent amount of margin, and we've seen that particularly for MGL, the margins and the volume picture both were good. IGL last quarterly volume growth was a bit disappointing. But that story remains to be one very solid and stable one, and we continue to be very positive on the entire pack, whether it's Gujarat Gas or MGL or IGL, and we think that people who do not want to take a high beta kind of stocks in their portfolio, this offers a great opportunity because of the stability of the business model and the fact that the gas prices also have remained in a very stable kind of a range, so the margin picture will look quite good.
Okay, that's a view on some of the gas distribution companies. By the way, the mid-cap market is still sort of fighting hard. That index is still up about 1%. It's been a much better day for the broader space than the Nifty, which is down about 25 points right now. That's a mid-cap index. Look at that. It's not really lost too much from the top. Anyhow, as we move forward, it is time to bring you our special conversation in association with the National Stock Exchange. It's all about investor awareness and protection, so you utilize your money in a wise manner and are always alert. Just a quick note on the power of attorney. Now, how do you use it? The POA comes into play when you want your broker to trade on your behalf. It's very important to read the fine print carefully and not give a blanket power of attorney without knowing what the clauses entail. Also keep in mind that as of now, the POA rules are supposed to change from the 1st of August. The regulator is trying to make it a little more watertight in favor of investors, so there is no misuse of the POA. But please make sure that until that happens, you take care and ensure that your broker is not able to pledge your shares and use that money for his or her own purpose. So that's very important to make sure no such clauses are there in the POA. Of course, read all the contract documents very, very carefully. Keep a track of all the transactions, the ledger, and keep your contact details updated with the depositories as well, so you can be tipped off the moment there is a trade, and you can check whether it is one that has been authorized by you or not. On that note, we need to take a very quick break. We will leave you with some commentary that we got from Tahir Badshah of Invesco Mutual Fund today.
To me, it appears to be that we should try and probably consolidate at these levels. There is a certain amount of fluff in the market. Maybe we need to take some bit of the froth off. So, but I would argue that the markets would probably trade now in a higher band compared to what the earlier band was. It's just that we've had a scenario in the last some months where the market has been operating in a very, very wide range. I think we need to probably settle down in a more narrow band. I doubt if I attach a very low probability, like I've been saying earlier, that to go back to those very vicious lows. But after a 10%, 12% climb, a 5% give off is something which can always happen. Probably to me it appears to be now becoming a more of a buy on dips kind of a market. I think like I'm saying that you need to see some evidence of the key pivots in the market today are essentially about the fact that there is liquidity, the fact that interest rates in the system at an aggregate level are only headed lower, and the fact that economies are gradually trying to lift out of the lockdown, despite the fact that the number of cases optically are still continuing to rise. So these are the three props, and to my mind I think none of these are probably going to be significantly detracted. I mean, you're probably going to see interest rates continue to head lower. The Fed and other central bankers are always going to be on standby at every every stage when there appears to be a threat to the economy or threat to the market.
Welcome back. Well, the market's not moving much. It's been a bit of a status quo. The mid-cap market has moved quite fine actually, and that market is looking quite strong right now. For Indiabulls Housing, Nalco has made a bit of a move. Manappuram Finance, that's also moved a bit higher. Hemang, I wanted your thoughts on the gold financiers. Any thoughts on Manappuram?
Manappuram is not under our coverage, but Muthoot Finance we've been liking, and because of the kind of phenomenal performance in the move that we've seen, we just put it under neutral category. And we think that given the large and high P multiple in the valuation that Muthoot is getting, you might see that entire theme getting a little extended to other players. So maybe rural focused players like Mahindra Finance is something that we think is extremely well placed, because that too had corrected very sharply, and we are seeing some bounce coming back, and the company also has raised money through rights issue. So I think some of the NBFCs where the management pedigree is good and the book value is good, offers a good value for investors at this point of time.
Okay. Also, Hemang, I mean, we have seen pretty decent numbers from almost all paint companies in Q4. Now, do you think that was just a one-off, or is this a sector that you typically like?
Paint companies' numbers were not that great if you look at Asian Paints. I think the
commentary, the commentary on the recovery around May and June, that's more like it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the commentary has been very good, and we have to really see how the overall numbers look over the next few months. But our view has been that Asian Paint, despite quoting at a 60 PE kind of multiple, if you look at their volume growth in the margin picture, that is not looking that great. So we are not positive on Asian Paint per se at this point of time.
Okay, fair point. I'll just get Ashwani back on. Ashwani, I just wanted your thoughts on a couple of these NBFCs making big move. Piramal Enterprises and Chola Investment. Any thoughts here?
See, NBFCs overall are showing traction, going by what Bajaj Finance is doing. I think Chola Finance, again, those accumulation patterns, I think you will go back towards 250, 260. Even same case with PEL, all of the selling is now done on all of these NBFCs, and at every lower level they are seeing accumulation. So similar is the case with the PEL, and I think in the days to come you could have a 20% type of move here.
relentless move on that stock today. As we're getting down to the close, Nalco is another stock on the metals arena that's moving higher. There are gains in Edelweiss Financial Services. So it's an interesting mix of stocks on the mid-cap screens which are higher. Hemang, before we let you go, any mid-cap pick for us, because that part of the market seems rock steady today?
I think we've already covered the gas distribution companies. So Gujarat Gas is something that we like. Both Mahindra Finance and Chola Finance is something that we definitely like at this point of time. And other than that, I think we could look at maybe some of the auto ancillary pay, because with the kind of move that we have seen in the OEMs, maybe something like a Balkrishna Industries. That looks to be a very strong, compelling bet because of the kind of niche that it has and the overall outlook that one has towards the global, let's say, auto market per se. In that particular category, they have a monopoly position. So I think these are some of the categories of mid caps that one can really look at this point of time.
Okay, Hemang, thanks very much for making time for us today and joining in. Well, before we get down to the final rates for the day, let's bring you some more market opinion.